You're not responsible. It was wrong. Reach out to me. We'll connect you.
I will never see, speak, or hear from Aaron Smith-Levin for the rest of my life.
I've been raised since the age of 4 to follow orders, do as I was told, or risk losing everything.
If we speak out, that's the only way they're going to get the strength to have the courage to do the same.
Why the hell does someone have to escape to get out of a religion?
I'm still shocked by the evil. This is pure evil at work. Hello, and welcome to Come Get Some Extra Scientology edition. Today, a more positive episode. So there's a lot I could talk about, but I'll keep it positive because I want this to be a fully positive show today. I think I'm taking next week off. We'll see. But right now, let's go ahead and jump right into this conversation with the very, very chipper Elizabeth Gale. I think you'll like her. Here she is. We're doing something very different. I'm very excited to have this guest today because we're going to talk about some positive things. It's a happy podcast. This individual is Elizabeth Gale. Thank you for coming on the show, Elizabeth.
Hi, thanks for having me.
All right. So I remember months after you appeared on Scientology in the Aftermath, I asked you to come on the podcast, and you declined. But it wasn't like, I don't want to do your show. It was, I don't want to talk about that negative stuff right now. I'm working on making my life better. And so after seeing some recent posting of yours, I'm real excited for you that you're in a better place today. And we thought it would be a good idea, if I'm not wrong, that we talk about life after Scientology and how there is one and there's positivity that we found.
Yeah, definitely. And specifically, there's some real positive things that can come directly from choosing to leave Scientology or speak about it.
Right. So you had struggles, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I know we talked previously to the phone call about how leading up to the Scientology in the Aftermath, you were out for 10 years with a PTS label.
Yeah.
And you were able to live okay that way, but you were under the whole don't speak out thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't go so far as to say it was okay. It was, I was living with, on our family land with not with my parents, but on the same property as my parents, and, they're Scientologists. I was working for my stepdad, doing web design, and he's a Scientologist, and, a lot of his big clients are Narconon and other prominent Scientologists. So, it was very apparent that I would directly lose my ability to make money and have a home if I chose to speak out. So that really started to weigh on me after a number of years. I had some anxiety, I had some depression. So the struggle was real, yes, right. But I certainly wasn't happy being under the radar.
Well, no, because you're like a prisoner, kind of.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was always watching what I was saying, being careful. And I was constantly told things like, if you ever speak out about Scientology, I can't employ you anymore. Stuff like that. It just, it's scary. It was scary and uncertain for me to make that leap, so I just didn't do it.
Okay, so if I can ask, what changed over 10 years' time, getting closer to this Aftermath appearance? What changed to make you feel emboldened to speak out? And what were some of the, I think we talked a little bit about it already, but what were the major concerns if you did? What was in your head at that moment?
The two things that really pushed me forward that I just couldn't keep quiet anymore, three things. One was I have a kid, and he was starting to be around 8 years old, and at that time, and I was terrified that he would get coerced somehow into believing Scientology was the only answer for mankind. And, you know, he's a good kid. He wants to help people. And I saw that trap. And so that was one of my first concerns, because it wasn't just me anymore. Now it was, you know, my kid. And he's real smart. I have two now, but at that time, at 8, I just had the one. And he's really, really smart. He reminds me of my brother a lot, and I just really wanted to make sure that at the end of the day I could say I did everything I could to stop the pattern from repeating.
You could see it coming, yeah.
Yeah, you can see it coming a mile away. And I have several friends who have who stayed under the radar and raised their kids, and the grandparents did end up getting the kids in, and one case an aunt, and they joined the Sea Org, and I just didn't want that can of worms to get opened at all. The second thing is that my mother and I were really working to repair our relationship during that time. I had a pretty crazy childhood, and we were really trying to just go on, you know, and
right.
It became essentially my stepdad was very unhappy with our me and my boyfriend. We were having medical marijuana plant for his dad, and my stepdad basically just gave an ultimatum to my mom that if we did anything like that, he wouldn't live on the property anymore, and they would have to move. And you know, my mom chose to do that, to go off with him and just basically bail on us, and it was just so reminiscent of my whole childhood, and so reminiscent of everything that I was just like, really, I'm in my 30s and I'm still getting wounded by this constant. So and not to mention, I felt for her because I had become a problem. You know, I had become PTS, and she wanted to. She's OT8. My stepdad's OT5. You know, they wanted to be on their bridge. My stepdad had some heart issues. He straight up told me, I'm going to Flag. If I don't go to Flag, I'm going to die. Don't screw this up for me.
Okay.
And that really spoke to me. You know, I mean, I was like, fine, go. Cut ties and just go do what you have to do. You know that expression, if you love something, set it free. So that's what I did. Those were the two sort of culminating factors where I was just like, I can't be this wounded 8-year-old child anymore, and I certainly can't let my child be that. So game time.
All right. Was this when you wrote the article for Mike Rinder's blog?
Yeah, that was when I did that. And I just kind of tried. The thing is I had been brought sort of inadvertently through different times of my life to be used as a positive thing for Scientology. When I was little, you know, it was how great you raise kids. When I graduated high school early, it was, you know, all due to study tech. So I felt like I was part of the pro Scientology narrative, sort of, I don't know, by association. And so I felt obligated to like, yeah. So I just felt obligated to say my piece, you know, to just, I don't know, be honest, I guess. And the other thing, I actually would have never done that, to be totally honest, but the property, my family property that I was on, went on the market, and I really tried to keep that from happening and all this stuff, but it was a sale started coming through, and so by the time I did the interview in last June, the property was essentially, you know, going. It was inevitably gone. So that also, I literally had nothing left to lose other than my kids, but that was the only way to keep them. So.
Okay, so you're looking at, you got 2 kids. You got this
now I have
property you essentially spent a lot of your life on.
Off and on, but yeah, I had lived there, yeah.
And it's going to go away. So you were already in a position that a lot of people find themselves in when they're declared before speaking out.
Yes. I mean, it was this very weird psychological gray zone, and it was, slowly people stopped talking to me, my family stopped talking to me, the ranch was being sold. It was like these little things. So when it finally came to, I was honestly very grateful for the opportunity to tell my story, especially on such a big platform.
Sure.
On a show that I had already watched season 1, so I was really familiar with, the format, and I felt like they did their best to make their guests look positive, look credible, and so it all really just fell into place. It was a really weird thing, and the property sold August 15th, I want to say, of 2017, and that episode aired at the end of that month, so 2 weeks later. So it was this really weird timing, and I felt, I don't know how to explain it other than that's what I felt like I was really supposed to be doing.
Just felt right.
And I knew it would change my life, and doing that, speaking out, especially on, such a large, to such a big audience, I knew it was going to be a big deal, but I really didn't know how much it was going to affect my future in positive ways, not just negative ways.
Right. Well, I mean, they don't pay you, so you got no money from A&E, no money from Leah or Mike. You told your story, and you knew what you're in for. But
correct.
You didn't know where you're going tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, we knew we had a month when they came. After that, we had a month to find a place and to get out, and it was a real challenge. I think a lot of people can understand. It's one thing when you're facing like big changes in your life and you have to kind of figure out new goals, but it gets really hard to do that when you're grieving or you're sort of traumatized, and my head was just sort of ringing for over a year. It was, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I wanted to do. It was really challenging. So it kind of came full circle that I was able to tell my story, and people listened. There's something so human about just feeling heard that was very therapeutic.
Yeah, I've always felt like, especially people who aren't directly affected by it, that it's kind of a thing that people hear in the background as noise and move on with their lives. And
right.
That's why it's good that this has been put on such a public forum, and now so many more people can be aware that were previously maybe a little bit willfully ignorant to it, and now people have become concerned and they want to do things.
Right. And I think that's such a testament to like the people who came before me, I mean, the Paulette Coopers and the, Mike Rinder, the people who really were harassed, and
you can't forget that.
No, and I know I got off easy simply because of those people being able to already spotlight that behavior and creating a PR problem for the church, which really was a cushion. So I did feel a sense of obligation in that regard too. Like, what are all these people working so hard for and risking their neck, and I'm just sitting here being a coward? And I don't mean to say other people under the radar are cowardly, but we all have that moment where we can say something or not say something, and we say, "Oh, I'll say it later." But my time just came.
Do you feel like staying silent represents complicity to an extent, especially once you realize what it is?
I do. I really do. And I understand. So I understand as well as anybody could as to why people make that choice. I have several, friends and associates now who are in that position, and I risk that very much because I understand when you've got traumas and fears and these real life circumstances, it can take years to really line everything up so that you can, say what you want to say. But I know we'll all be happier when we're honest, when we're allowed to be honest with ourselves and each other and the truth. So of course I wish that for anybody under the radar, for sure.
I do think there's some people who are like Leah. If you remember Leah's story, she stayed for a long time not because she felt like she had to. She was trying to. She thought she could fix it.
Right.
You
Right.
know, and there's a
And
lot
you
of
know,
people who
that's
do
an
that. I think.
interesting.
Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, that's interesting too. And maybe if there's enough people that come together and are able to communicate. The problem is it's such a censored topic when you're in that bubble. I don't know. It's going to take some real coordination, and people are going to have to be honest to each other.
I don't think it's fixable. I think it's just. I'm just referring to the mindset. I really don't think it's fixable, but that's my opinion.
I agree. I agree for sure, but I do think that it could be better than it is.
Yeah.
You know, I think so. So I think it's noble for somebody who. Okay, here's the other thing: is I try to be really understanding of the phases of thought. You know, I know how many times I changed my mind about different things, about different tenets that I learned, or different spiritual beliefs. I changed my mind a million times on stuff as I was decompressing and I was starting to learn more outside Scientology. So I tend to be pretty forgiving. You know, if people think they can stay in and fix it, it's like, give it a try, see how far that'll take you, but don't be and then don't be afraid to take the next step to do. After all, Scientologists are the most able and ethical people on the planet, so
Absolutely.
They should have no problem.
Absolutely. So, in a way, I would suggest that you had a little bit of an advantage to a lot of people under the radar in the fact that you were already up against the wall. So you took that step of, what do I have to lose? So,
yeah, I mean, you could call that an advantage or you could call it a disadvantage, but I was slowly setting myself up for that. I mean, I knew I wanted that. I mean, I honestly started going to counseling in secret for almost a year, literally sitting on this guy's, in this guy's office, wonderful counselor that I found, and just questioning, why do I even want to say anything? You know, it was so instilled in me that there was something wrong with me that I even would want to say something bad about Scientology publicly. Like,
your family couldn't know you were seeing a counselor.
Of course not. Yeah, right. I mean, if my immediate family, did, but not the Scientology one.
Gotcha.
But I found, because my whole life, there's an expression, good roads, fair weather. You just acknowledge the positive. So all these other, non-Scientology family, my dad's side of the family, my father was the only Scientologist. And it's so funny because they never talked bad about Scientology to me because they knew that, for one, it wouldn't do anything and it would be upsetting and maybe I wouldn't be allowed to see them anymore, especially as a child. But now that I was able to be honest and talk to them, our relationships are better.
Okay.
So there's something about not saying what you really mean that keeps you distant from other people who want to support you and help you.
Well, it's not real. It's not tangible. It's made up. It's fake.
Yeah, and so many relationships, for me anyway, within Scientology, especially while I was under the radar, were like that. And it's like, why am I even calling this person a friend when I have to, smile and nod that they just spent their child's college fund on their bridge, or when I want to scream at them and be like, why would you do that? And I think that's what a real friend would do. Maybe not
Absolutely.
scream, but a real friend would say, hey, are you sure you want to do this?
When someone says that, are they saying it in a positive way? Like, oh, well, I figure it's going to pay off in the end.
Yeah, that's hard. You don't want to be like a Debbie Downer. But I saw
that's how they say it?
So much. What?
I'm sorry. Is that how they're saying it? That was kind of a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know how other people are saying it, but I mean, I was really raised to believe that, you would get more able. So, if you only have $10,000 now, you don't hold on to that. You don't hoard it for a rainy day. You spend it and you expect to get back triple. But that doesn't really always happen.
Or ever.
Yeah.
Okay, so what were the positive things? What did you gain? What were you able to do because of your appearance on the Aftermath? How did you recover from facing impending homelessness?
Okay, this is a crazy story. Excuse me. Okay, so I don't know if you remember, but when we left the ranch, basically everything had fallen apart. I didn't have a job. We didn't really have a home. We couldn't really afford much. We didn't really have a rental history. I mean, we were basically, and these are not to the fault of Scientology, you know. Had I been in a better state of mind, perhaps I could have prepared better. But we were living in a trailer on a property, sort of just allowed to be there, so we sort of figured things out. And at one point, I was feeling pretty bad about my situation, and I actually started a fundraiser to try and help. It was sort of a lofty goal, but get enough money together to kind of get us into a place. Because, you know, all of my goals and the kids' dad's goals were pretty much farming and agriculture related, which is impossible to do without, you know, space. So I put up this fundraiser, and I ended up getting about $5,000, which was worth, so that was sort of the start. And it wasn't just the money, it was just this crazy experience that there were people who were willing to help me, to help.
Yeah.
That like blew my mind, you know.
Strangers.
I was so sure I would fail. I was so sure that everything I had heard, you know, if you leave Scientology, you know, you're a bad person, everything's going to go to crap, you're never going to recover. And I felt that way. And losing our property has been, I don't know how to explain it other than it's almost like grieving the loss of a family member. It's been, I expect I'll always miss it, and even I have good days and bad days.
Right.
But to lose that and everything, and my relationship with my partner was very strained. I was very strained. Everything was was rough. And I put up that fundraiser, and I started thinking, you know, and people helped me along the way. The one thing that is amazing about speaking out is that you are no longer in the shadows. And Scientology, by nature, is such a paranoid thing in the sense that exes, people who are out, they're not going to, I mean, it's hard to trust somebody who's like, oh, I'm under the radar, I'm out. You never know if they're a spy, if they're going to rat you out, or they're going to go back, or whatever. So it's a little dangerous, but yet if you're under the radar, you don't have real relationships with Scientologists. So what I found was when I came out finally and was like, bam, you know, this is my stance, people were very supportive. Claire Headley offered me a job, which I took. I couldn't keep it together. And so I didn't work for her very long, but just those simple, like, little olive branches just kind of helped me renew faith. But the craziest thing that happened is I had a Marie. You interviewed her at Billheimer. She messaged me one day and said, "My boss saw your episode and your fundraiser, and he wants to talk to you. He's helped a few people. Will you talk to him?" I said, "Of course." And I talked to him, and he's an ex-Scientologist, and he basically was like, what do we need to do to get you into a house? And he, no crap, basically was like, okay, we can do this. He learned a lot about our agriculture plans and kind of worked with us to make sure that it would work for everybody. He ended up purchasing this property as an investment property that we are paying a lease to own on. And all that literally directly came from speaking out. And not that, it's a weird thing because it's weird. Not every day does somebody call you and say, hey, you want to buy a house? I was like,
right.
who is this guy? I got really scared. I thought, I don't think OSA really gives a crap about what I say or do, but I definitely wondered, like, because if you wanted to break me at that point, you would buy me a house and then take it away, and I probably would never recover at that point. So
Don't give him any ideas now.
Well, yeah. I'm much, I don't know, things are different, but and he also offered me some sort of mentorship, because there's some aspects of Scientology philosophy, that were plagiarized, like that kind of are almost like law of attraction, the positivity, the power of intention. In Scientology they'll call it tone 40 or postulates, and it really managed to turn my energy around, and I really just tried to practice gratitude, and I felt like more and more things were happening the more honest I was being, and it hooked me up with a whole set of people. I now have a network of people who were raised like me that I can call, and they can call me, at any point, and you don't have to explain a bunch of stuff. You don't have to word clear somebody. You can just say what's going on. You can talk about things.
You couldn't even do that, right? You couldn't even just talk, because it would lead to like a knowledge report, right?
Yeah, and if you're trying to explain to somebody a problem you're having, or like just a little thing, like I miss my mom today, right? Like I woke up and it's my mom's birthday, and I'm super sad.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, it's not today. It actually just happened, but that happened. But the fact that I had a network of people that I could just say that to, and I didn't have to say the whole thing. Oh, I was raised in Scientology, and now we're disconnected, blah 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 blah. It's so valuable to have that network of people who already understand. So that, combined with just a few people having faith in me, I just didn't. I don't know. I was just ready to try and make something better for myself and my kids, and I find it gets better every day, because I now get calls from under the radars, or I get, and I hear them sounding just like I sounded 10 years ago, and I can honestly tell them it will get better. And I couldn't say that before. And the fact that I can now and be like really mean that is like worth more to anything.
That's awesome.
More than anything.
That's awesome. And you don't have to be a guest on Scientology in the aftermath for it to get better.
No, and see, that is the beautiful thing. Like now, not because of me, but because of all the people and the aftermath crew and Leah and the people who came before, all you have to really do is step out from under the radar. And that is almost the hardest thing. But once you do that, there is this connection and this group of people that like want to help you, and not necessarily, maybe not financially, or whatever it is. We all have different needs at different times, but I felt so alone when I was under the radar, because I felt like a fraud. I felt like I was two people living two different lives. And now that I have been brave enough to just live who I am now, and say what I've said and do what I've done, I think people see me as more genuine, and so my relationships are more genuine with people. I don't know how to explain it. It's a really good place to be.
I'll tell you, I think I befriended you on Facebook right after the show you did, and I never knew you real well, but everything I saw looked genuine to me. So.
Well, that's what I've been really, trying to focus on. There's like, for the past, year or so, I had a major identity crisis. After that. Not only did I feel like I'd sort of ratted out my mom, I felt like I don't know. And then the ranch, so much of my life was involved with the ranch. I had like a little hobby blog that was all about living out there and being out there. And like I said, my relationship was seeming like it was going to fall apart. And I was just like, who am I? If I'm not a Scientologist, if I'm not a farmer, if I'm not, who am I? And I didn't really know. I'm still figuring out, like we all are. But the one thing I wanted to be was genuine and stop saying things I didn't mean, holding my tongue for the protection of, a cult. And that said, there was actually a lot that I didn't tell the aftermath. There's a lot more nasty crap that happened that I wasn't willing to share, and maybe I will be one day, but that was a genuine choice. I was able to make that choice not out of fear, but out of my own heart.
I think just speaking out at all is the kind of bold move that defines your character already to an extent. And I think we all anyone who interacted with you kind of knows who you are.
Well, I hope so, and that's the thing that I hope to help others. I mean, I'd love to have more than just emotional support to offer at this point, but I'm still rebuilding.
You got your own thing,
and I'm so glad. What?
You got your own life to put together,
I do, and I'm doing it, but I'm doing it with this goal also that, like, to ultimately help others as much as I can one day, because I mean, people came out of the woodwork for me, and I don't feel like it's me, like I was some, special case. It's just that I went out and sought it. There's a woman who worked for my parents who left the church, who I asked Mike to see if anybody knew my parents. I was really trying to piece together a little bit more of my family history by communicating with people who knew my family who were out now. And one person who knew my parents was just there for me. She just, every time I messaged her on Facebook, if I was freaking out, pretty soon I got a response. And it was always just amazing to just have somebody to listen and to be there that you don't have to explain everything to. And I try and be that for other people. And I think that is one of the most valuable things that you can possibly get from speaking out is a tribe. You lose so much when you leave Scientology because it's like you lose all these people. You can lose your job. You can lose your home. You lose. It feels like you're losing. And then it's hard to know what you'll gain because you've never been in that situation. But people who speak out and who I think are brave enough to be genuine. And it's not just genuine with everybody in Scientology was terrible or these are the bad things that happened to me, but genuine with your process of trying to rebuild your life, genuine with your process of struggle. I think there's a lot of people who want to help. That's almost our way of healing. So I don't know. I guess I would just hope that people know that if you do choose at some point to get out from under the radar, there's a tribe. There's a tribe of people waiting for you on the other side that you may not know about.
There's a huge support system. And it's interesting. You said something before that really caught my attention, and that was that you put yourself out there to receive help, if that makes sense.
Which is against everybody's nature as a Scientologist.
Yeah, no one's going to grab you by the hand and drag you to freedom. You need to give yourself an opportunity.
Right. And so, and that's, it's hard. I mean, there may be people who, will help you, kind of be a sounding board for you or, whatever. Yeah. But yeah, at the end of the day, I can only really compare it to like ripping that Band-Aid off. Once you do that, then you can start to heal. If it's all festering and wounds and you stay in that and you pretend it's not happening, and which is what I did. I mean, I was really hurting from the things that had happened in my life. The suicide of my brother and the way I was raised and shuffled around, I was really hurting for so long. And I was never really able to admit it. I'm fine. And it's because if I admitted I wasn't fine, that means I had to admit that how I was raised wasn't fine. And that means Scientology wasn't fine. And that means L. Ron Hubbard wasn't fine.
Wow.
And that means nothing is fine. You know, it's hard. But there's no better time. I wish so often that my brother had stuck around, because in my opinion, now is the best time to speak out. The church does not have the resources to shush us all. We all have cell phones, and we could go live if we get harassed at any point. I even almost wanted to be harassed. I was like, yeah, maybe I'll film it and sell it to the National Enquirer. You know, I mean,
there's a little bit of that thought process, I think, for a lot of people.
I mean, yeah, it's just, you can turn it into the worst thing or the best thing in your mind. It's really all about your perception. But it's like, you stand on that diving board for long enough, and you're not in the water, you're not on the land, you're all by yourself, and you're just sort of standing there. It's like, you can't. I couldn't live that way for much longer.
Gotta jump.
You gotta jump, and we're so lucky because we're not jumping into what, you know, Paulette Cooper jumped into. Nobody believed her that she was being harassed. Right now, you can just be like, hey, sorry, Scientology's harassing me. And everybody's like, oh, yeah, they do that.
Exactly. So, do you think the Aftermath Foundation will play a big role in helping people make that leap?
I do. I think that the Aftermath Foundation has the ability to provide a stable sort of net, particularly for people who are leaving the Sea Org. Because, I mean, that like the littlest olive branch, depending on what somebody needs at that time, you know, a place to stay for a couple months or a few $100s to feed them and their kid, you know, I mean, that can literally save somebody's life. There's a lot of people. Okay, I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth or generalize, but from my experience, thoughts of suicide are predominant in people who are leaving Scientology or being harassed by Scientologists or the OSA. Maybe I have a particular soft spot because of my brother. It amazes me how much a little help can not just restore a person's, you know, food, but like their heart, and feel like things might be okay. So if the Aftermath can provide that on case-by-case basis to people, then yeah, it could make a huge difference. And in reality, if enough people leave the Sea Org, they're not going to be able to function. So that could be a really good thing. The church won't be able to function, just to be clear.
Right. The moral of the story is you were facing terrible uncertainty. You were dealing with a identity crisis because of everything happening at once. And who knew where you were going to be the next day, but you found, by coming forward, by allowing yourself to receive the help, that help was there. And now, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, to a great extent, what I think makes you so full of joy now, is you're self-sufficient.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part. For the most part, I am. And, I still go to counseling. I still, like I said, it's my mom's birthday a little bit ago. I still need help. I still need help. I still need support. But I'm self-sufficient enough in the sense that I know I need that. And therefore, I can get that for myself. And I would have never been able to do that if I was still under the radar, because I was it's like crippling. It's so crippling.
You're talking from kind of like a psychologically.
Yes, psychologically. my counselor kind of explained it or soundboarded it back to me that, I was feeling fractured as a person because I had this cognitive dissonance within me where I felt like I had to do a certain thing, but I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't do something else. And it's Lawrence Wright got it so right when he said it's a prison of belief. But you need help. We are human beings, and this is a freaking crazy religion with or if you want to call it that, cult, group, business, with a huge amount of power over thought. And particularly for people my age, in their 30s or even younger, their 20s, who are now second and third generation Scientologists coming out of that, it's terrifying because you're told and you believe that the outside world is so bad and scary and you'll fail. And that's what I was going on. But after speaking out and asking for help, these little, I don't want to call them little, in the big picture they're little, but for me they're a big deal. The fact that Claire Headley, I'm going to call out Claire Headley today, I guess, she didn't even know me. And I said, I don't know how I'm going to feed my kid this month. And even just thinking about it now, like that feeling, that fear. And she said, well, can you do this? And I said, yes. She said, well, we'll try it out. And she saved my hide because even though I didn't last with her because my mind was pretty fried at that point and I needed to learn a lot and I just couldn't at that point. So even though it was this little blink in my history, the fact that she was willing to do that changed my perception a little bit, and then a little bit more and a little bit more. And the fact that somebody believed in me enough to help me find a place to live. Somebody believed in me to answer my call and listen to me cry enough, not like, oh, you're lame, you're stupid, you're PTS, you need to go on course, you need to write up your OWs. Just listen. Just say, oh, maybe it'll be okay. Literally changed my perception of the entire world.
I think it's awesome. It's awesome that you're where you're at. I am so happy for you. Do you have huge goals of where you want to go from here? Do you want to one day own another ranch, try to buy that ranch back? Do you have lofty goals like that, or are you just taking it one day at a time?
I'm still in a shorter. I'm not sure if I'm in one day at a time. I think I might be like a month at a time, perhaps a season at a time. I don't know. I'm still figuring it out. I know that I'm writing a novel. It is a fictional book, but it's definitely about a family and a cult. And I found that that's an important goal for me to just know that I can. Writing a novel is so hard. I just want to know I can do it and finish it. Cool. Figure it out. But at the end of the day, and I don't want to speak for other people, but I'm kind of assuming here, I heal by also helping other people. So even though at this point all I can really offer is emotional support and an ear to other second generation or third generation Scientologists who just kind of, they trust me now because I spoke out. I'm a safe person. And that's really what it is. Once you speak out, you become safe in a certain way that allows you. It's like a golden ticket into a new life. If you try and remain under the radar, you just don't get the benefits of being out.
Isn't it like the most amazing feeling to know that you're able to do that?
It is. It is the most amazing feeling, and it's so funny because every time you complete a service in Scientology, you go to the examiner and you have to have a floating needle, and they ask you, I forget the wording, but would you like others to receive the gains that you have received? And of course, you have to say yes, because if you say no, you'll get cramps. But in this case, yes, I so very want other people to experience this because you're gonna crash. Most likely, if you lose your parents, it hurts. If you lose your job or friends, it can cause problems in your life for sure. and you'd have to expect that. But there's another hill to go up after. There's what, light at the end of the tunnel, all those cliche things to say that probably sound like I'm full of crap, but I'm dead serious that once you take that leap, all these doors open in the fact that you have a tribe and you have people who understand what you've been through. I don't mean to lessen any veterans or anything like that, but I say it's almost like we're like war buddies. Like we went through a trauma that was, even if we weren't in the same place at the same time, we had enough similarities in our traumas, particularly as second-generation Scientologists or third-generation Scientologists, that it's so healing to be with each other and to have that. And we have some events and we have some groups, and I never thought I'd sign that. I never, ever occurred to me that I could find that in my life. And that's probably helped me more than, counselors.
That's awesome. That's amazing. I'm glad you have that. Was there anything we didn't cover that you might have wanted to cover?
I think the only thing I would like to just say is that I don't think that I'm like some special case of ex-Scientologist. I think that it's all about asking for help and trying to be as genuine as possible. And so yeah, I guess you don't have to go on TV. You don't have to really do much of anything. But if you can take that stand in some way that makes you like really take a stand, it doesn't have to be like on a show. You can just do it, and a whole world opens up. So I would just hope that for people who are considering, should I talk out? Now's the time.
More than ever.
Mm-hmm.
More than ever.
And everybody else got harassed, and so many lives are ruined in the past that in some ways I feel like we're obligated to speak out.
Great message. Great message, absolutely. Liz, what I do on every show is I do something called 10 questions. Would you be willing to participate?
Okay.
So it's 10 questions. Just answer honestly what comes to mind. Some of them are silly. Some of them may be more serious. But if you don't like a question, you can pass.
Okay.
All right, so here's question number 1. 10 questions with Elizabeth Gale. Number 1. You're in a happy place right now. Probably the happiest you've been in a while. What makes you happiest of all?
I don't know. I'm going to go with my family, my kids, knowing that.
Almost always the answer, and it's a great answer. Go ahead, finish your thought.
I was just going to say knowing that no mother is perfect, and I would never say that, but I'm doing everything I can to really give my kids, help them foster a good sense of who they are and their own spiritual beliefs on their own accord, and that makes me really happy.
I feel like generally, maybe not in every case, but I feel like generally people who were raised in that atmosphere end up becoming great parents if they leave, and raise their kids outside.
I appreciate that. I've seen that in others as well. I think we're just almost hyper conscious about it.
It's a good thing. Yeah. All right. Number 2, true or false? Candy is overrated.
Candy? Like sugar candy?
Yep.
True. Absolutely true.
Number 3, do you prefer to eat out or eat a home-cooked meal?
Do I have to cook it?
It's usually a factor, isn't it? Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Probably, I'm going to say eat out. Even though, whatever.
Number 4, finish the sentence. Scientology in the aftermath
is changing lives.
It is. Number 5, your glass, is it half full, half empty, or you're just happy to have a glass?
Oh, ask me every half an hour, and I honestly may have a different answer, but I'm working on consistently feeling happy to have a glass.
Oh, that's good. I like that answer. Okay, number 6. What's the most essential thing that you have in your life now that you wouldn't be able to have in your life when you were in Scientology?
The ability to say what I mean, I guess.
Yeah, we kind of covered it too in the discussion. Number 7. True or false? Gnomes are creepy little bastards.
False.
You like gnomes?
Well, I mean, I don't know that I like them, but I don't know why they get a rep of being creepy little bastards.
Some people find it.
Tell me, you're gonna have to, after this, you're gonna have to give me one example of a gnome being a creepy bastard.
You gotta watch horror movies. Number 8. What's your preferred music?
My preferred music. Dance. Female singer dance music.
Okay. I'll go with that. Number 9. Finish this sentence. Therapy / and or counseling is
not what I thought it was.
In a good way.
In a very good way. Yes. It's
good.
Not what I thought I was told. I guess it's not what it's. Whatever. I think you understand what I was meaning.
Absolutely. I think the audience does too.
Okay.
Last but not least, number 10. In your path to speaking out and breaking away from Scientology completely, what was the best advice that you ever received? There may be others that could benefit from it. So what's the best advice you've received until today?
The best advice was probably somewhere along the lines of, if this is your life and it's your story, and that means that you can tell your story or share your story, and that's your right. It's not a luxury, and it's not something anybody can take away from you. It's your life, it's your experience, it's your story, and it's up to you to choose, but if you choose to share that, then all the haters can F off.
Okay, right. I like it.
Yeah.
Liz, thank you so much for doing this. If we covered everything, thank you for coming on, and I really wish you the best moving forward. I see good things for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Okay, so it was a real joy speaking with Elizabeth Gale. Couldn't be happier. Couldn't be good things happening for a nicer person. Except there's a lot of nice people I'd like to see that happen for. And I know there's others who are doing better nowadays and working towards that better life. For speaking out and getting away from the prison of the mind thing. And it's not the prison of the mind anymore when you're under the radar, is it? It's like you're just consciously making the effort not to rock the boat, and you're not living. So follow this lead of Miss Elizabeth Gale and make your choices wisely. If you can make a plan a little bit, make one. If you can't, guess who's out there for you? TheAftermathFoundation.org. Not AftermathFoundation.org. That's something different, but TheAftermathFoundation.org. I've linked it in the description. Let's get some people some happier, more fulfilling lives out of this. In the meantime, thanks again, Elizabeth, for coming on the show. And next week, not sure what's going to happen. I'll update you during the week. In the meantime, until then, stay connected. That about sums it up.
You have been listening to Come Get Some Extra on Blog Talk Radio, iTunes, YouTube, and many other streaming services where available. As always, stay connected, and that about sums it up.